Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And we are joined today once again by a friend of the show. This is actually her sixth appearance on the Film Buds.
Wow.
Friend of the show, Madelaine Davis. She is a published writer, she's an editor and researcher, and she's a former athlete. If you haven't heard Mad on the show before, that's a little bit of her background. Mad, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. Enjoying the Texas weather. Actually, it was like raining all day yesterday, but it was very nice out today. And I'm just glad that some of the water maybe like washed out some of the pollen because I've been dying here.
Yeah. That is the one downside of spring, the benefit it's getting warmer. The downside is it's hell for anyone with any kind of seasonal allergies for this time of year.
Yeah. I think it's funny because like you guys are all pretty in sync with like the flowers. And like now I'm the one who's like having like itchy eye and like congestion and crud. And I'm like, man, I'm like practically at the end of the season. And it's like, all right, we've been waiting for it. Here it comes.
Yeah, now we're here at the tail end. Can't know.
So 6 appearances. I didn't realize that it had been that many until I was putting it together.
When you said that, I was like, fake news. What?
Yeah, cool. So your first appearance was all the way back in October. It was episode 191, Silent Horror. That was your first time on. And then your last time on, your most recent time on was last month for Women in History. So that's all of the appearances that you've had on the show. You also, of course, wrote The Women on Screen, The Woman in the Mirror, which is available on the website, which you did for filmbuds.com. Beyond your many appearances here, what all have you been up to?
I picked up a gig. I'm doing some writing for Screen Rant. So I'm also going to get to write about TV and movies and stuff over there. So I think that's going to be potentially, I'm excited about it. I think it'll be fun. Right now I'm working on a piece about Miss Maisel, which gave me an excuse and an opportunity because I was behind and I hadn't watched the latest season yet. So got to do some of that. I'm pumped about that. So that's what I've been kind of up to. Prepping to go. Some friends and I are going to go do like a little weekend cabin trip coming up in May. Prepping for that. So I think that's going to be, we're going to do some hiking and stuff and some rafting because it's over by a river. I think it's going to be, no, I have literally nothing interesting going on.
If you find a weird book at the cabin, don't read it. That's just 101.
So actually, okay, so this is a true story. So this is the second time we're going. It's my friend Kendall. So who, if she's listening, hello Kendall, and yes, I'm talking about you. So like her mom, like her mother-in-law and father-in-law, they own a cabin out in Leakey, Texas. And they were like, yeah, if you want to like take your friends out there, go. So we went out last year and like Kendall had gotten to the cabin before us. And then my friend Bucky and I were driving out there. And like by the time we got there, it was super dark, like pitch black. It was late because we had to wait until I was done with work and stuff. And so it was like super dark and we could not, like it's a bunch of these winding back roads, like everything's super confusing. There's like no light anywhere. We get to this house and we're like, is this it? But like as we drive closer, all these signs are like, we'll shoot on sight. And we're like, I don't think this is giving Kendall's mother and father-in-law energy, but maybe we're wrong. And we've been listening to the radio and all of a sudden it like flickered out and like this sounds made up, but it's not. 666, like the numbers, like it switched to radio station 666, and we were like, oh my god, And then I looked in the window and I realized Kendall was like on the back porch of like a house across the way from us. And I was like, oh. You just said back out and turn around. But for a second, it was scary.
Well, at least you are familiar with it now this time.
Yes, so hopefully there will be less like stranger danger warning. Welcome to Cannibal Cabin, possessed by demons in the woods. So
we'll shoot on sight.
That's right.
Yes, I was like, and this is Texas. I believe that. I was like, we're gonna get shot. I was like, should we go knock on the door? And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, I don't know either. I don't want to get shot. I don't want to get that.
No, yeah, that all sounds great actually. We've been thinking about going camping, but we haven't really officially decided on committing to that.
No, yes, your camping trip sounds like a hoot. It sounds like a good time.
It was super fun. It was actually really, really fun. And the cabin was really cute. It ended up being very, very entertaining. It was a good time. You guys should.
Good. In Leaky, Texas. I hope they fix that leak.
Yeah. A leak so big it sprung a river.
I'm sorry. I've been hanging out with your dad so much.
So Madelaine is, of course, joining us here today to talk about all April long we've been doing movies around April holidays, and the last Friday of every April is Arbor Day. And so if you're listening to this the day of, happy Arbor Day.
Yes.
Dear listener, go outside, touch a tree.
Hug it. Hug that whole tree. Tie yourself to it. Anarchy.
All right.
So Arbor Day is it is an internationally recognized holiday, and it happens, like I said, the last Friday of every April, and for Arbor Day, a lot of people go out and typically plant a tree or do tree care, tree maintenance, some sort of thing, because the whole idea is about forestation and reforestation and that sort of thing. So how do y'all feel about Arbor Day?
I love a fucking tree. Love a tree. Can't say enough about it. Love it.
Dear, how about you? Arbor Day?
Arbor Day was definitely never a holiday that I thought about, really. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Because it was like, it's Earth Day, and like, then there was my birthday, which was the far superior, the most important holiday of April. And then there was Arbor Day that was on an arbitrary day, and it wasn't like one of those days where you could just be like, it's the 22nd of April, you know?
You could almost say it was arbitrary.
Right. There you go.
Great.
There you go.
No, I think Earth Day definitely eclipsed, which was last Friday's episode, definitely eclipsed Arbor Day for our generation, I think, as the big nature sort of celebratory holiday of April.
One could almost say
Arbor Day
shaded and overshadowed Arbor Day. Shaded.
It's the very much like we like everybody matters kind of holiday instead of it just being about the trees.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you've got Earth Day and then you've got the appendage, it feels like, that is Arbor Day, just about trees. So but Arbor Day actually existed long before Earth Day. It's something that it's something that like our parents' generation grew up with and generations before that. And so for a little bit of background on Arbor Day, it was begun by J. Sterling Morton, who was born April 22nd, 1832. Bit of irony that he was born on Earth Day.
I mean, it wasn't that then.
No, not at the time, but later on.
100 years later.
Yes.
And he felt that too many holidays focused on the past and that there needed to be a holiday that was focused on the future. and he was a journalist and a politician who had relocated from New York to Nebraska in 1854. And he held the first Arbor Day. He felt that Nebraska had too few trees. And so forestation was a big goal of his, and he decided that he would organize the first Arbor Day April 10th, 1872 in Nebraska. It resulted in 1 million trees being planted.
And yet Nebraska still feels very treeless and empty.
They were planted. No one said that they were cared for.
That's fair. You're not wrong.
It's a journey.
And then after that, it was celebrated for a long time on April 22nd for Morton's birthday in several states as it started to expand. Eventually, it got relocated to the last Friday of April, which is best tree planting weather for temperate regions. However, some parts of both the U.S. and the world hold Arbor Day on a different day, depending on their climate and their weather. So, for example, Florida holds Arbor Day the third Friday of January. And then some countries have a holiday that is essentially exactly like Arbor Day.
Yeah.
But it's by a different name.
I was going to say, I feel like the other reason Earth Day is such a big thing is like Earth Day is like much more international, whereas Arbor Day, there might be various types of Arbor Days internationally, but it's not like everyone celebrates it at the same time.
And it also had activism baked into it.
Oh yeah.
As a result of how it came to be, whereas Arbor Day, plant a tree, celebration over. You know, it's just sort of.
It doesn't have a mascot like Easter.
Yeah.
You know.
So with Arbor Day in mind, we decided that we would go and review some movies that involved trees. And when you search movie trees, your list is a little bit thin in terms of how you can really do movies that focus on trees.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't even really a lot of good documentaries that are like real tree-centric.
Tree-specific? Yeah.
And so what we ended up doing was we said, well, what are some movies that are, you know, important around, centered around trees in some sort of capacity, you know? And we ended up deciding that we would do a take on a similar story, FernGully and Avatar. And they're both...
As I was watching FernGully, I was like, holy shit, Avatar definitely just like ripped off this story.
And I'll take this, and I'll take that.
But like without having Tim Curry sing a number, so obviously Avatar is the lesser of the two here.
No, that's fair. It does have Giovanni Ribisi giving a really fantastically hammy performance.
That's true.
But FernGully is a 1992 Fox distributed film. It's part of the sort of anime boom of the early 90s that happened way back then. And it's all about trees being cut down and deforestation, which is largely, of course, also what's happening in Avatar. And Avatar has the Soul Tree. And so that was good enough for an Arbor Day for us. And
I mean, like, the other options were like the trees in Lord of the Rings, the tree in Pocahontas.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that we really nailed it.
We could have done the tree in The Conjuring.
That's right.
That's fair.
That's right.
There we go.
Evil Dead's tree.
Yeah. Right.
So before we actually, this actually works as a little bit of a primer. I was going to ask, what are some of your favorite pop culture trees? Not just movies and TV shows, but pop culture at large. What are some of your favorite pop culture trees?
The tree that the Keebler elves live in.
That's a good one. That's a solid.
That's really good. I don't know why I was like naming all these tree things, and then my brain instantly went to the Jolly Green Giant, and I was like, nope, not a tree. Pass. Maybe that the Giving Tree, the book.
Oh, that's fair.
I used to read that a lot as a kid.
Yeah, that's true. There's like
Memory lock.
the Weeping Willow from Pocahontas. Also feels pretty classic.
Mother Willow, I think is her name.
Yeah, Mother Willow.
There's I think it's a willow tree in Into the Woods that's
also
Cinderella's
where her mother's been buried. Yeah.
I came up with a list of my top 5 trees from pop culture.
I love it.
1, Treebeard.
Yes.
Of course, the end.
Yep.
2, the Great Deku Tree from the Legend of Zelda games.
Okay.
Yeah, giant sentient tree. Yggdrasil, the World Tree from Norse mythology.
All right, that's a good one.
You were really on the internet for that one.
Did you do like just straight up like Tree of Life? Like that's like a.
I mean, yeah,
like multiple tree of life. The tree that the apple was on, Adam and Eve.
That's a good one.
Sorry,
Disney.
Yeah.
Groot, number 4.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right. That's so obvious. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
And then 5, the Evil Dead trees.
Yeah, the Evil Dead trees.
Yeah. I saw some other ones that I saw on lists included the To Kill a Mockingbird tree.
Okay.
I also saw.
What about the tree from The Lion King that Rafiki or whatever lives in?
I saw that one.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
I wanted to live there.
Yeah, it looked cool. Looked dope.
Yeah.
Big.
Oh. Here's a great example, one that I didn't see on any list. The codename Kid Next Door Treehouse Tree.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Look at you using your brain. Amazing.
And then similarly off of that, I did want to also ask, since Arbor Day is also a little bit about environmental awareness, to a lesser degree than Earth Day is, what are some of your favorite environmentalism movies or characters?
Wally.
Captain Planet.
Well, yes. Captain Planet. Iconic. Loved that show as a kid. Was obsessed with Captain Planet. Wally. Fucking fantastic. Great film. Love the character of Wally. If we're going dark, Planetina. From Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, who?
That's a good one.
The hell?
She goes kind of evil at the end there.
Oh yeah, she starts going like
she
murderous.
Breaks bad, but that's all right.
She goes a little intense at the end, but still great. Another one I was thinking about. Well, actually, I also thought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they were trying to get rid of that
pollution story.
Yeah, it's definitely a pollution story. Aaron Brockovich, though, like I guess it would be like a more serious one. And then, of course, there's like some documentaries and stuff like Blackfish, I think was a big one. Like all the Our Planet stuff. Another one I thought about, I'm going to say kind of, it's more like animal and conservation-y, but like the Tiger King. Tiger King. Because it's like a lot of like animal conservation and like conservationists are like very upset about all the laws in the United States that like allow people to keep exotic pets and shit like that. So.
No, that's fair.
Boom. A bit of a stretch with that last one, but I'm gonna say it counts.
Dear, do you have anything before I go and give my examples?
Well, I gave my one. It was just
Captain Planet.
Yeah.
Captain Planet.
Captain Planet, indeed. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking, and definitely documentaries. We watch a lot of like animal shows and things like that. Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Okay.
Not the movie that we're about to talk about.
Okay.
Because they're like elements and things like that.
And there's some of that, imperialization, modernization kind of stuff
Cold
going on.
steel, good air.
No, I get that.
Simple themes.
Right.
I think that's fair. Would you like to hear what I've got?
Sure.
Okay.
No.
I know you have 5.
I don't. Absolutely
Number 1, the Lorax.
Yeah. Oh, I thought about that too. Yeah, the Lorax is great.
Number 2, Michael Clayton.
Who's Michael Clayton?
It's a movie
Yeah.
with George Clooney where he plays a sort of fix-it attorney who
Yeah.
gets brought in on this case where the lead attorney's sort of gone off the rails. And it's a case where there's a company that's been poisoning the water supply.
They're poisoning the water hole
of a town, and it's been giving people cancer.
Oh.
And so...
Is that the one where what's-his-face is like, I am Shiva?
Yeah, Michael Clayton.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I was like, am I thinking of the right movie?
Yeah, great movie. Number 3, WALL-E.
Yeah.
Number 4, Koyana Statsky.
Bless you.
It's a really interesting sort of montage-centric documentary that doesn't have a lick of spoken word in it. That's just nothing but visuals of like the processes of the earth and images of metropolises, you know, in modern America at the time.
Okay.
And
fascinating. Can you say it one more time?
Koyana Statsky.
How do you spell that? For people who want to Google this right now.
KoyaniSqatsi.
Yeah, see, I would never have guessed that. So
No, it's got a lot of surprise letters in there.
Yeah.
My last pick for great environmentalist movies is M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening.
Okay. No, I would say that's great. I mean, it technically, I guess it's a plant revenge tale.
It's great in its own way.
Little Shop of Horrors.
The scariest part in that movie for me is that old lady.
Yeah.
You trying to touch my things like that.
The scariest parts are the old lady and the very opening bit where the woman is talking about what she's seeing, but we don't get to see it at all.
Yeah,
that's also one of the scariest parts of the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. The Happening. Good God.
But those are some of the ideas, you know, and some great examples of movies that tackle these kinds of issues. It's kind of hard, you know, you go and you look up like environmentalism movies, and it's a pretty broad, you know, range of stuff that you get. When you type up environmentalism characters, a lot of what you get have been the sort of like eco-terrorist villains that we've had recently with people like Thanos and that sort of thing, or even the mom in Godzilla King of Monsters. And so remember, her whole thing is like environmentalism.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And so,
but like, I'm pretty sure her like whole thing is like being like a biologist. Like, that's so vague.
Yeah. And so those are some of the movies that sort of come to mind with these sorts of topics. And we're splitting up our review in half. And so this first movie that we're going to be reviewing is FernGully with Mad. Then we're going to be doing Avatar with Nick.
Yes.
And so without any further ado, I guess we should go ahead and jump on into our review of FernGully. Are you ready?
Start on top with a better guest and the better movie. It's a good call.
No, that's not. Start out with the OG stuff, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
So for a little bit of background before we discuss FernGully, I wanted to briefly talk about its background, because the movie, there isn't a lot of information that you can get about where it comes from, how it was made, that sort of thing, you know. This is before there were a lot of behind-the-scenes special features and stuff on home release.
Yeah, people just made movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so everything that you get now is just sort of like word of mouth, oral history stuff, and photographs, and the history of the people themselves. So it actually began as FernGully is based on a series of what started as bedtime stories for the children of Diana Young, who was a PhD in, I believe, English.
Okay.
And she would tell them to her children, and she was married to Wayne Young, who was wanting to be a producer in film and television and stuff like that. And he ended up producing Crocodile Dundee.
Love it.
Yeah.
And so she would tell these stories to their children, and they had the idea that it would make a good animated movie, but animation was in a slump in the 70s and 80s. It had this real big peak in the 50s, moving into the 60s, and then it just totally lumped off in the 70s and 80s.
And then we had the Disney revival.
90s, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it ended up sitting on the shelf because they couldn't really get anyone interested. They put out some feelers and nothing really happened. And essentially everyone was telling them that no one's going to touch a children's message movie that's animated.
Okay.
And
Just you wait.
But
He
it's like a whole
wanted to
genre now.
No,
That's right.
literally. And so Wayne Young really wanted to still get it made, and then finally Little Mermaid came out, and it really blew the doors box office wise, off of animation, and it restarted that whole movement. And so then people were more willing to give money to these kinds of films, try and pick some up for distribution, things like that. And a Disney animator by the name of Bill Croyer started up a production company called Croyer Films, and he ended up picking up the story. And he knew from his days at Disney a guy named Jim Cox, who wrote one of the drafts of Oliver and Company and several other Disney films.
Sure. Love that movie.
And they decided that they would get together and that they would adapt this story, FernGully. And along the way, Jim Cox also went and snaked a few young animators from Disney. He helped get them in contact with Robin Williams for the part of Batty. And it ended up making Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the head of Disney Animation at the time, so pissed off that he put like a little bit of a vendetta against them in the production. And he ended up like going and renting out 2 rental spaces that they wanted. He tried to get Robin Williams to back out of doing the movie. And he also, when they finally did get a place to set up in an old brewery, he tried to buy the whole building.
Oh my god. Some next level petty shit.
That's right. Committed.
Yeah.
And so they finally got the whole movie set up. The Batty part, the Robin Williams part, was supposed to only be about 8 minutes of screen time.
Incorrect.
Ah!
You don't hire Robin Williams and then only give that man 8 minutes of screen time.
No.
No, he elbowed his way into more. I mean, come on, he's in the whole movie pretty much.
He gave them 14 hours of material.
That's right. That's fucking right.
And from that 14 hours, they were like, well, we have to increase the part.
Yeah.
So it's just Robin Williams improvising in a studio and then being like, all right, now how do we animate the hell out of this?
That's correct.
Amazing. That sounds like a Robin Williams making any animated thing ever. Just let him go.
That's right.
It was designed to be a message movie for children. It was always intended to be that way. They used some sort of quick animation edits where they used computer generated imagery to like duplicate certain images to sort of make some shortcuts. And it cost about $24 million to make. Again, it's kind of hard to get information on this movie. There isn't really a lot available. On top of them, of course, wanting it to be a message movie, they said that they worked very hard to make sure that it didn't seem overly preachy. It ended up getting picked up by Fox Studios, who distributed the film, and it grossed $32 million globally.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It released April 10th, 1992, so it turned 30 this year.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Dang.
It's got a runtime of 1 hour, 16 minutes. It was directed by Bill Croyer, written by Jim Cox. The cast includes Tommy Chong, Tim Curry, Tone Loc, Cheech Marin, Samantha Mathis, Christian Slater, Jonathan Ward, Robin Williams, and Grace Zabriskie. And the premise is the magical inhabitants of a rainforest fight to save their home, which is threatened by logging and a polluting force of destruction called Hexus.
Jeez, us, wow.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I did also just want to mention one last thing. Young, the producer, said that early discussions always were about making sure that the animation of the film highlighted the real-life magic of the rainforest and didn't try to exaggerate it and make it some sort of playland fantasy world.
Yeah. Interesting.
So with that in mind, Mad, since you are our guest here, we'll start with you. What did you think of FernGully? What is some of your experience with FernGully? Was this your first time, or had you seen this film before?
Man, I don't know what. First of all, and this is why was I acting surprised when you were like, "This is the 30th anniversary of this"? Like, I know how old I am. I don't know. I'm pretending. Yes, I've probably watched this movie like a million times as a small child. I was obsessed with fairies, obsessed with them. I love this fucking movie. My poor mother has probably had to endure so many rewatches of this film. To this day, she can still like quote lines from it. So, yeah, no, I was obsessed with this movie. It was probably one of my favorite movies growing up. And honestly, like, yeah, it is one of those films too that, like, for me was, so like 92, I was 4 when it first came out. Because that was the year you were born, PJ. Yeah. So like, I don't remember if we saw it in theaters or not. Mom would have depend. I think when it came out, she was still pregnant with you. But definitely like when it was out on like VHS, we had the VHS. I watched it a ton. And it was like one of the first things that like ever introduced me to like larger ideas like deforestation, testing on animals, because like that's the whole shtick for like the character Batty, is he's like this bat that is escaped some sort of like testing lab where they're like testing cosmetics and chemicals and things on animals. A thing I had never known about, acid rain, like all kinds of stuff. And it did like in a lot of ways make me like super conscious of a lot of these topics, but in like a way that was like very accessible, and like enjoyable and still like fun and engaging to watch in a film and not just like horrifying. But no, so yeah, like I loved this film growing up. So definitely this was not my first time viewing it. And no, I loved it. As I was watching it, and I know I mentioned this to you earlier briefly, PJ, but I had no idea it ever took place in Australia until I watched it again just now. Like as a kid, that like never, which now that I think about it too, one, like the whole reason I realized it is because of the driver's license, which I guess as a child I was like, who cares about a driver's license? But there's like the scene where you see that kid's driver's license. And I was shocked because one, I was like, this is Australia. And two, I was like, he's only 16. I had how old that little shit was. So that was like shocking for me. But yeah, so there were some things about the film. It was funny rewatching it where I like had never really noticed certain things or paid attention. So there was like that, but also then there was like a kangaroo later on, and I was like, well, that should have been a giveaway. Should have.
I mean, when you put it like that,
put 2 and 2 together, but I didn't. So I realized that for the first time.
It's okay. There are kangaroos in Winnie the Pooh, so kangaroos can be anywhere in a child's mind.
That's true. That's true. That's true. He does, like, kangaroos show up in like what is definitely like some sort of British wood somewhere. So fair point. Yeah, no, I totally did not put that together though. I do think as I was watching it, I think it is really like beautifully animated. That is one thing as I was watching it. They do such a great job of like making everything feel very like lush and vibrant. But yeah, it's not like over the top or like fake. Like it felt very real and like very, again, vibrant and beautiful. But like, yeah, it didn't feel like they tried to make it some sort of like fairy forest or like magical forest. The thing that was magical about it was just like the reality of like the earth and the forest itself, which I think is obviously the whole point, is that like the earth around you is magical, and to like observe and maintain that beauty.
No, absolutely. Dear, what's your familiarity with FernGully, and what are some of your thoughts on it?
So I have the exact opposite experience. I'd never seen this movie until like last year.
Yeah, a few months ago.
When we watched it in Greensboro with some friends. And literally, yeah, I had never heard of this movie before. It was not on my radar. I was I was sipping on the Disney real hard back in the day,
Yeah.
and I had every Disney princess of the early '90s, and one Anastasia
Yes.
thrown in the mix,
That's
you
right.
know. But no, yeah, I had never heard of this movie before, and so watching it as an adult was a completely different experience. Hearing these voices that I recognized,
Yeah.
but like characters that I'd never seen before, and love Robin Williams in it. I think that it's great, especially considering this came before Aladdin
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came out in the same year, and
Same
that was part of the reason that Katzenberg was so pissed as
Yeah.
well.
Because like I do like, I'm sure that Aladdin got way more of the media buzz than this did, and which is such a bummer because like I feel like as a kid like I would have totally vibed with this movie a lot. And I also just this watch, this is my second time watching this movie, noticed the like bird creatures for the first time, and like we had seen them at the zoo
Yeah.
before, and that was the first time that I ever like put two and two together, was like, hold on, this is a real thing. This isn't just like some made up creature in this like fantasy world. This is a real animal, which is so cool. Evolution is fascinating.
Yeah.
But I really just there's a lot of like familiar themes and interesting topics in this movie. I love the way that Hexus is like very kind of reminds me of how in Hercules at the end where they have all of the Titans come out, the one that's like the lava.
Yes, very like elemental kind of,
Yeah, exactly. But I love also that they are like, don't even worry about the deets on what Hexus is.
Yeah, because it's like he starts off as this kind of like blob, and then all of a sudden also has like a skeleton, and then at the end it's kind of like again a weird, but it's like then he's like kind of smoke, but then again he's like blob on top of skeleton. There's a lot. It doesn't matter. You know what? It doesn't matter. The point is he's gross and scary, and Tim Curry camps the shit out of it, and it's great.
And I absolutely love his backstory. They were like, he was here and he was bad, and so we banished him to that tree over there. And like that's it.
Fuck him.
We're done here. They really tied a bow on that.
And then they thought the humans were extinct. The end.
Like literally, they were just living their happy little fairy lives in the middle of an Australian forest. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Don't you want to go there?
You know, I guess depending on, I don't know how long fairy life cycles are, but you know, I guess theoretically, depending on how old or how long a life cycle is for a fairy, theoretically, old lady fairy could have only been like a year or so, maybe a few years old, and they're like, oh, the humans are long gone, but really it's just been like 10 years since the last humans were actually
But it's
around.
Generations for them.
Exactly.
I mean, who knows?
So just a thought that crossed my mind, because I was like, where did the human, like, why did they suddenly lose contact with them? And it could have been that, like, you know, Hexus was there the last time, again, with some sort of deforestation kind of thing.
Interesting. I guess I hadn't really thought of it that way. I was assuming the opposite, that they were, like, very
I was
old.
thinking of, like, like, back, like, predating modernity.
I was just coming up with a question or an answer for a question.
We don't know nothing about that world. We don't know nothing about it. I have no clue.
But I was thinking it was, more of like a previous civilization of humanoid or humans of like an earlier generation. And then those moved out and like settled in cities and such. And so like the forest had been left alone for quite some time.
Yeah.
But also like, I mean, either works. Yours, I think, made me sadder.
No, I get what you mean. So I had seen this movie, of course, obviously, like Mad said, growing up, I saw this movie, but I saw it much younger than Mad. You know, she's 4 years older than me. So, like, the last time that I had seen it for a long time, I don't know, I was probably, like, 8. you know,
Yeah.
or maybe a little bit older than that, but like it had definitely been a while. And then I saw it again a few years ago, but still hadn't. And that time that I saw it, it was sort of like at a party situation, so it wasn't necessarily like people were really ultra focused on anything that was happening on the TV. And so then the last time that I saw it was like you said, with Jeff and Leah more recently. And I was really surprised with how well the movie had actually held up. I remembered still, my memory of the movie was like Robin Williams is great, but I don't really remember the rest of the movie in any particular direction. And so like rewatching it now recently, you know, 2 times within the last half-ish year. No, I really think it's a very charming kids movie. I think it does, to your point, address issues that a lot of people probably don't know where to begin with, like talking about them with their kids.
Yeah.
In just a very honest, simple, straightforward way, you know, it's just sort of, it's part of the story. You know, it doesn't really sort of talk down to them or pander to them in any sort of way. And I think that that's a really, really effective element of the story. You know, the 2 people that run away with the whole movie are definitely Robin Williams and Tim Curry. I mean,
100%.
That's just kind of
100%. Yes.
Right.
But I mean, you hired probably 2 of the biggest personalities that you could possibly hire in any sort of direction. And then just a bunch of normies for the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just like laid back, hanging out. Surfer boy dude. He's just hanging there, man. He had a job.
Yeah.
Jonathan Ward.
Oh my gosh, he looks like somebody from the 90s.
He does. I was gonna say, so I like made note of this. There's this line where he's teaching her slang or whatever, and he's like, "You're one bodacious babe," and I was like, "That's so fucking nice. I love it."
Yeah.
One bodacious babe.
It instantly makes me think of every time Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Because like nothing ever talked really like that.
Tubular.
No, literally.
That's right. Love it.
Rocket Power had that effect as well.
Yeah, Rocket Power definitely had the same sort of like but I mean the whole thing of like Rocket Power was they're like this kind of like skate park surf like California family and
by the way, it's not that I think even necessarily that the other performers are necessarily doing a bad job. I think it's just that, one, their characters are written to be the straight characters.
Yeah, they're just playing the normal people.
You know, they don't get to do anything all that exaggerated and interesting. And I think the other issue is also that again, like, you just don't have a lot of wiggle room of what you could do with Krista to make Krista stand out.
No, so like the whole point of she's like this sort of like, you know, she's young, she's like not even fully kind of coming into her power yet. Like the whole thing at the beginning of the movie is she can't even use her powers to help the seed grow, and she's like trying to kind of step into the place of like her mother and, you know, like become sort of the next leader. And at this point at the beginning, you know, she's not quite there yet. And she's just this sort of young, wide-eyed, very like inexperienced character, you know, so much so that she like meets this human Zach, and that motherfucker lies to her every 5 seconds. And she
she's like,
advantage of her naivete all of the time. And of course, part of it is like the growing up moment of like realizing those lies and some of the hardship, and then like stepping into this leadership role and growing as a person. And like all of that's great, but it's not the fucking glory of Robin Williams as like you know, over the top bat, and Tim Curry is a giant evil smoke monster. Like you can't compare with that.
That also wants to fuck. It's a sexy smoke monster.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Classic love song. Woo! And he does like it's almost like a flash dance, like
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like it's incredible. That number is amazing, and yes, it is. It's like incredibly like it felt like something like someone would do like a showgirl number too. Do you know what I mean? Like it was It was so, I loved it. Incredible. 10 out of 10, would recommend.
So I was really thinking about it, and the only characters that have a song that they personally sing are Robin Williams and Tim Curry.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody else doesn't, nobody else gets a musical number.
No, it lives in that, you know, a lot of the Disney Renaissance musicals and a lot of Disney princess musicals and stuff even today are very much like pseudo musicals.
Yes.
There are some songs, but also the music is going to kind of stop at about the 2/3 point.
No, and I totally get that. I just
But
think
no, you're right. It is definitely...
And I think that that's what's leading into their characters being far more memorable
I agree.
as well, is because they get this whole showstopper moment where your attention is just on them. And like, I don't remember, you know, I think I would very distinctly remember like Krista singing a song.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and that actually does bring up a point that I wanted to bring up. I was thinking about it. They apparently expanded the Robin Williams role. The movie is an hour 16 minutes long.
It's short. It's fast.
Was the original runtime just an hour? Like, you know,
Were they really making this for like a TV audience? Like, we're gonna put commercials in this thing, and then with it, it's going to be like an hour and a half long. You know? Yeah,
I'd be really curious to know some of what happened with this thing, because honestly, I would say this movie could have easily been a standard 90-minute thing.
Well, and the thing is, like, technically the runtime is that long, but like there's like a solid like 10 minutes of that that's even like end credits too. Like I was like, you know what I mean? Like the actual, like it zips by really fast.
Which I'm surprised then, like, more parents of the generation weren't like, I gotta buy this really short kids movie. We can just zip right through this pain for me.
I just think, like, I don't know. I don't think it was, like, it just wasn't as popular. And, like, I had read online when I was looking into a little bit of the background on it, too, that, like, originally it was actually going to come out in 91, but they were afraid how it was going to perform up against Beauty and the Beast, I think, is what came out in 91. And so that's why it even, like, got pushed back to 92. It came out before Aladdin because they were, like, worried about competing against Disney. And, like, Disney was just such a powerhouse at the time. Like, Disney animated movies were cash money. That was bank. And so, and I feel like it just didn't... There, at that time, too, I mean, you mentioned Anastasia, but, like, there are so few animated films at that time that weren't Disney movies that I feel like really became a part of like the zeitgeist. And that's not to say that like those movies didn't exist, because I think they do. And I think you have like these little movies like FernGully, which are these kind of smaller little gems that like some people stumble upon, like we stumbled upon it. Again, probably 100% because I was obsessed with fairies as a child. But like if you weren't, how would you end up kind of like knowing about that? Because it's just, no one could compete with Disney at that time.
No, your next biggest name in the game was probably Don Bluth at that time.
Yeah.
With, you know, the Fievel films and
Stuff. Fievel were great,
But Don Bluth, again, is a real big second step down from the powerhouse that was the Disney Renaissance of the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
So it was Disney and who, really, for a long time.
For a really long time.
Disney was on the lifeboat. Everyone else was in the water after the Titanic sank.
And that's also why they were so desperate to get Pixar back, is because when Pixar shaved off in the 90s and turned out to be so big, it was the only person that did really challenge the crown.
Yeah.
Was an opportunity that they squandered.
Yep. They fucked that up.
Yeah.
That's right.
They did. Yeah, I agree. Going back to sort of your original point, I do think that this movie, while it does have like three musical numbers, doesn't feel in the same vein of like Disney animated musical.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that some of the shortness is a little bit of a detriment to it, because they do have like a really it's a really great cast with a really interesting world to explore. And sometimes it does feel like we get really great moments that we then kind of race between.
Well, that's kind of how I feel about, like, Hexus's backstory. Like, where did he come from? You know, you could have had this whole, like, 5-minute break it down to me as a child, you know, or a moment of, like, some backstory. What is he? You know, is he magic? You know, what are the rules of this world?
Yeah, you don't really get anything of that. I think I would have liked a little bit more of, like, Maggie, like, her character. And maybe even, like, because, like, the only interaction you see between her and Krista is, like, the very beginning, where Krista and her are talking, and then Krista, like, sees smoke and then comes back, and, like, that's it. And then towards the very end, where she comes back and she lets her know that, like, she found human, and she's like, that things are about to go to shit, and then things go to shit. And then Maggie dissolves into magics.
For reasons. For absolute reasons.
And I was like, I don't understand. Yeah, I didn't understand that either. I was like, why did she use up too much magic to put?
But her name is Maggie.
Yeah, I was like,
What's her name?
Why she was like, I'm gonna make the seed glow and then yeet on out of here.
Yep.
Bye. And I was like, why?
Because she had to disappear like the Jedi. Just
that's exactly when she did that. She, like, turned all blue and then, like, blue, and I was like, oh my god, Star Wars. Oh my god. So yeah, I do think that there are some moments where, yeah, they, like, rushed it a little, and, like, a little bit more background on Maggie. Also, like, that one character is introduced as her dad, and he's, like, the most useless what the fuck character. Like, they hardly interact.
He's more of a bumbling idiot than the dad in Aladdin.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he's the exact same type.
Same like, build and everything. I thought that too. I was like, you're totally right. So yeah, like, I would have liked a little bit more. There's, like, they name each other as family, and there's virtually no family dynamic whatsoever. And so, you know, again, like, as a kid, I didn't give a fuck, but, like, as an adult, I was like, it would have been nice to have seen, like, a little bit more interaction there, and a little bit more of, like, that very community and, like, how it functions, and, you know, and again, like, I know Cheech and Chong are there.
We had Cheech, Chong, and Tone Loc.
Yes, and so, like, I know like they hardly ever get any strength. Like, Tone Loc does have, like, a great song, I'll say that. But, like, Cheech and Chong is not, like, they're in that little fucking. They look like a leather daddy biker gang. Like, that's what they're little.
And also, they have some of the worst, like, ADR. The mouths are so bad.
Yeah, and, like, underutilized, just, like, horribly underutilized. I was like, the cast in this, a lot of them are, like, so good, and, like, some of those people only have, like, little, like, one-offs, and I was like, why? You're totally, like, use them more. You have Cheech and Chong, fucking use them.
My general guess, if I did have to put a finger on it, would probably be that it was budgetary stuff, because if I'm not mistaken, I saw somewhere, and this probably isn't all that, you know, well documented, so with a grain of salt, I saw somewhere that most of the cast, if not all of the cast, ended up getting paid scale.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if there were just, like, some real budgetary problems.
Maybe.
With the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that does make sense.
Yeah. And then, like, I think it would have been great. Yeah. Because, you know, again, going back to, like, usually if we're talking kind of, like, animated movie musical, it's, like, the main character has, like, their own song too, and, like, she didn't have, like, I feel like there could have been moments where they, like, enriched the story and, like, had other characters have kind of, like, one-off moments or songs or something, and I feel like, yeah, those were kind of, like, missed opportunities. Again, maybe it was just budgetary stuff. Obviously, you know, this was, like, a new studio and, like, a whole bunch of, like, fresh-faced babies, so, like, it makes sense that maybe they didn't have, like, until Fox, even with Fox picking it up, like, throughout production didn't have the same sort of, like, budget and access to things, which is, like, because I think it really is, like, a cute story, like I said, and also, again, 100% Avatar rips it the fuck off and does a less good job.
That's right. I love the whole message that like Maggie leaves us out on before she dippity skipped about her being like that she could heal it if it was something that happened like within the forest, but like because of the fact that it's like man has done this, like she couldn't, there was nothing she could do at that point. It was really interesting of like, you know, nature will find its own path, like we don't need to assist it in any way.
Well, yeah, and like, the other thing too I thought was interesting is like, so you know, these fairies have all this magic and this power, but like, yeah, the problem isn't them and their power. The problem is like these humans, and like, I think it's really interesting that at the end she's like, "Do you want to stay here?" And the character Zach is like, "No, I need to like go," and he like realizes it's humans' responsibility to go out and like mend this thing that they've broken. And like you're right, she like can't go out and do like magic outside of the confines of the forest. The only time she can do it, she gives him that seed and he leaves and he plants it outside of the forest, and then she has access to that and that plant grows. And so it's like this idea of like, again, at the end, it's not like don't rely on the magical fairies for it. Like you have to go. It's like up to us. It's like up to humans to go out and repair the damage that we've done.
No, yeah. Absolutely. Honestly, I guess on that note, do we want to go ahead and rate this bad boy?
Yeah, I feel like we should.
Okay. So Mad, out of 5, what would you give FernGully?
10. A 10 out of 5. A 10 out of 5. No, I mean, do I think that I mean, obviously, this is a huge nostalgia film for me. This is like such a film that meant so much to me as a kid. So I don't think I can give like a fully unbiased opinion of it.
That's totally fine. Go for it.
But yeah, you know, like I loved it. Again, I think it shares a lot of stuff that like information and messages and makes them very accessible for children. I think the animation is beautiful. I think that Tim Curry is incredibly memorable. Robin Williams, incredibly memorable. Like a lot of the performances and musical numbers that are in there are fantastic. There's really great 90s music throughout.
That's right.
Love it. Like the score is very 90s and I'm very about it. No, I think it's great. I think it's like such a little gem of a film. I like it. I love it. No notes.
No, that's totally fine. Dear, what about you?
What do I give this movie after that? Anything less than adequate is unacceptable at this moment. I'm gonna give FernGully a 4.5.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a little bit of a knockdown, just some technical stuff, you know. It's not even the length of a normal movie. What's happening here? But with all that in mind, I think that the movie itself is really beautiful. I love the message of it, and I think that it was unexpected when I still remember that day that you guys were just shocked that I had never seen this movie before, and then we instantly had to put it on because it was so important that they needed to show it to me right that moment. Which is a very rare thing that has ever happened in my life. But so I think that it's something that I would definitely, you know, share and keep as something to like go back to within my life and my viewage.
No, I think that's fair.
Your viewage. I love it.
I'm gonna go 4.
Okay.
You know, it does have, like we said, those problems, but it is a really very nice movie. It's a very pleasant movie. It's an easy movie, you know, and I think that it does manage to also have its moral lesson without being too saccharine or too sappy. But it does have a few, you know, hiccups here and there. But honestly, for the most part, It's a really solid, really enjoyable little children's film. Like, there's really not much wrong with it for the most part.
And it's got a kick-ass rap in it, you know.
Yeah,
It does.
right.
Robin Williams does a rap.
If you wanna hear the rap style that influenced Lin-Manuel Miranda,
that's correct.
Come and watch this movie right here.
FernGully.
We got the inner scoop on that.
That's right.
Yeah, incredible.
So before we move on to our next film, Avatar, Mad, do you want to say any last sort of messages to the listeners? Do you want to let them know where they can find you and your various works?
I mean, I guess if they want to find me, you can stalk me in Texas. So I'm not going to say where, but I'll give you a little hint.
Gives away the game.
There you go. Yeah, no, I mean, like, obviously, Twitter, Instagram, I poke around in both of those places. And yeah, like I said, I'm going to have some stuff coming out on Screen Rant, and I'll, I guess if you want to hear my great opinions, pop on over there. And aside from that, yeah, just absolutely nothing else. I have a lot of other opinions, but I keep them in my diary. The end.
More people should be like you on that regard.
Well, that's probably true.
No, I'll link all of your socials down below. I've got them in some documentation already, so I'll link all of those down below. Also, of course, you can check out any of Mad's previous appearances on the show. It's episodes 191, 192, 196, 203, and 212. And so if you want to go and check out Mad's previous appearances on the show, also be sure to do that. She's a great friend of the show, and she's always a good guest to have on, so we always like having her back. Thank you so much for coming on once again, by the way. I know it was a little bit last minute, more so than previous times, but thank you for coming on.
No, I loved it. I got to talk about FernGully and my childhood obsession with fairies. Like, what's not to love? So thank you for letting me come on and dither on about all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here for.
That's right. That's right.
The service we provide.
Mm-hmm. Dithering?
That's right.
Opportunities to talk about fairy obsession.
That's right. Good. Mm-hmm. That's what
Always.
The listeners want. That's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But with that in mind, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, and now we'll go ahead and move on to our next review of 2009's Avatar, and we're joined by the one, the only, Nicholas Delgadillo.
Hello. I'm pretty well. I watched James Cameron's Avatar last night, so
yeah.
I feel inspired, feel uplifted, I feel feel strong.
Wow, that's.
I mean, the rest, all the other movies I've talked about on here, it's all bullshit compared to James Cameron's Avatar. Let's just put that out there.
Well,
all terrible. It's time to talk real cinema.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was going to bring up, for those who maybe don't know, Nick has been on the show. This is now his 10th appearance on the show.
Woohoo!
I think that definitely makes you the most out of all the guests that I've brought on.
I'll send you the invoice.
It goes probably you, Mad, and then probably, I guess, like Sky, just because he also came on like with Henry as the host as well.
We'll have to do some math and get back to you.
But yeah, Nick is a writer and a critic and a very dear friend of mine. And so he's gracious enough to come on every once in a while, and he's come on 10 times since I've hosted the show.
That's
great. Do you remember what your first one was?
It was Sundance.
Yeah.
It was like, it was Judas and the Black Messiah, I think, was like the focus. And then I think I just talked about Sundance overall.
Yeah,
which was
right.
over a year ago.
Yeah. Don't think about it too much.
Yeah, my kid is older than he's 19 months now, so I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah. It's
Passage of time
when
ain't
you're
cool.
in. Yeah. Well, and it really flies when you're in quarantine for part of that,
Well,
So then, your most recent episode, the last one that you showed up for, was our sort of like single word title episode.
that was a while ago, huh?
Yeah, January, end of January.
Was antlers and lamb.
Antlers, lamb, pig. And old.
Mm-hmm.
So
all terrible
really
compared to Avatar.
Every last one, he says.
Every last one of them.
It's
garbage.
So what have you been up to overall, other than watching James Cameron's Avatar?
Well, the past until this week, I was horrendously sick. I probably obtained the new swamp variant of COVID from our Charleston trip. Who knows? I don't know. It was never, and all the tests I took, it was never COVID. I don't know what the heck it was. It kicked my butt. I lost like 10 pounds. Took off work several days. It was not fun. That was like the sickest I've been in a very, very long time. It was very long. It took me a long time to recover, I guess.
Wow, yeah. I didn't have any sort of... I definitely had some sort of like allergies that ended up becoming a little bit of like a cold kind of thing, seasonal cold kind of thing. But other than that...
Yeah, like it was the Friday, so it was 2 days after our Charleston trip. I started feeling kind of bad, and I thought it was allergies because this is the time that they're kicking in, like you said. But it was much worse than that. It was like fever, chills, vomiting, the whole deal. Like. So that was a ton of fun. But yeah, I started playing Halo Infinite in that time. Right, I got Halo Infinite. My sister got it for me, like the month it came out, but I haven't played it at all. But that's been fun to start. I don't know. Is this the last Halo game? Probably not, but
Is it ever?
No, but I like the campaign of these games, but like both like 4, 5, and now Infinite it feels like it's like rebooting every single time.
Yeah.
Like Infinite starts, I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. I don't really care. Like it feels like they just swap out like villains and everything and plot even like per game now, whereas like the first 3 felt like more of a linear story. And this one is like almost that, except it's, I don't know. That said, I think the game is pretty good. Multiplayer is okay. There's nothing new there. Just, but I like the campaign. It's like an open worlds game, which is different for Halo. But I dig it.
Interesting. I pretty much dropped out after 3. I started playing 4, never finished it.
Don't worry about it.
No, that's fair.
I played a lot of 4, and I was still big into Halo. Multiplayer was fine for that game. After 5, I was like, I'm had enough. I played through all the campaign for 5, and then that's kind of like didn't touch it again,
Yeah.
And the campaign was weird and had false advertising.
Well, I'm gonna have to take your word for it. And so, who probably would have done a better Halo movie than whatever show we currently have on.
It's a Halo TV show, and nobody's watching it.
One Mr. James Cameron, who we came here to talk about.
James Cameron's Halo. A lot of his, a lot of the aesthetic of like the Marines and everything, or I guess they're not technically Marines anymore, but mercenaries, whatever.
Yeah,
of Avatar group. They're it's very Halo-like.
Yeah.
I believe, because it's like centuries in the future, but it's still very kind of like analog. They're still wearing military fatigues and using like bullets.
No, absolutely.
The vehicles. Yeah.
It does have, like, he has that very solid aesthetic, which also I think ended up sort of becoming something that Weta adopted, because I feel like some of the more militaristic design elements of what's that movie with the cities that move?
Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines.
Yes. Wow. I haven't thought about that
you.
movie in a while.
I feel like
you
with
should
Mortal
think about
Engines,
it every day.
I should think about it more.
Some of the more militaristic elements of that from the UK side of it that had more of that, like, modern military equipment, I thought looked a little bit Avatar-ish. And since Weta is one of the people that worked on this, I feel like they kind of adopted that as part of, like, their house style overall.
Hey, we've already made the models and stuff for all this. We'll just keep it, tweak it a little bit.
We've already got a back catalog of 200 plus images.
This is very expensive, very complex stuff. We got to recycle.
That's correct.
You know how expensive this shit is?
Does it still look good? Use it.
It wasn't in that movie.
They don't care.
No one's going to notice. So we came here, though, to talk about James Cameron's Avatar, which is, as we said, the highest grossing film of all time. He's made 2 of the highest grossing films of all time, of course, with Titanic being the other one. He's kind of an interesting figure. Before I guess I talk a little bit more about James Cameron, how do y'all feel about James Cameron?
James Cameron is an insane person. like pretty much everyone with too much money. He's he is insane. He definitely knows how to make some movies. And even more than that, he knows how to make a lot of money making movies. I don't know. I don't think I'd want to meet James Cameron. But
Fair.
But yeah, I mean, it's what everyone says. Like, just you can't bet against him.
No, that's absolutely true.
Whenever he pops back up, he delivers.
Do you have a favorite
Interesting
James
guy.
Cameron movie?
What are all the James Cameron movies?
James Cameron has directed.
I don't know.
Terminator, including the things that he has written for himself. Terminator.
Well, if we did Terminator 2, then which that one?
The Abyss, Terminator 2, True Lies, Titanic, Abada.
Sorry? Abada?
Yeah.
This is Abada.
This is Abada. Hell yeah.
So those are all of his.
I don't know. I'm going to go with Judgment Day.
Okay,
T2 Judgment Day.
Dear, do you have any thoughts on James Cameron or a favorite James Cameron movie?
James Cameron. I guess my history with James Cameron is like I've seen the Aliens movies. I've seen the Terminator movies. I grew up watching a lot the Titanic and True Lies. I love True Lies. I think True Lies is a perfect movie.
That was like your first big Jamie Lee Curtis movie.
No, yeah. That and like
Sexy.
Freaky Friday. Yeah, right. No, I loved it. She's fantastic in that film.
Yeah. I remember seeing like a clip, I guess, like the clip, right, of True Lies. Somewhere on the internet. I don't think I've ever seen the full movie, but I've seen like the scene, right?
Yeah.
I think she does a phenomenal job as always. Jamie Lee
She's
never
pretty good.
disappoints. Literally, I love people who are excited about acting.
Yeah, that's fair. So do you have a favorite?
A favorite
Of James
the
Cameron's,
James
yeah.
Camerons. I think I'm gonna go with True Lies. I think that it's different than the other ones. It's fun.
It's
You
kind of an
know?
outlier.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, I like Titanic, but it's sad. It makes me cry every time. Like, you can only watch it in certain moods.
And it's long. You can only watch it when you have a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and I refuse to watch it in any other format other than the two cassette tapes that VHS gave us back in the day. You had
For
to
the break.
change.
For your
That's right.
intermission.
That's right. Perfect format. Some movies need an intermission. And Titanic is one of them.
No, I think that that's all fair. I agree with Nick. I think James Cameron is probably a madman.
For sure. He's insane.
He's done some pretty remarkable things. I'm going to talk a little bit more about his life in just a second. He's a real anomaly. He's a really weird outlier of a dude. And he really hasn't, he's directed plenty, but when you really look at things that, he's written, directed, he has a filmography that's, smaller until he does, I guess, like all these fucking Avatar sequels, than like,
Yeah, I agree. There's just not
Tarantino.
there's at the end of the day, comparatively to any other like big filmmaker, and if you say James Cameron is technically one of the biggest, right? Just box office wise, it is weird how like comparatively scarce his filmography is.
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of that anomaly also because he's such a giant name, but he's also not. It's not that he's not a public figure, but
Yeah.
he's not that much of a public figure. He's not always. I don't know. You don't get a bunch of James Cameron updates from either himself or or others.
No, he's a nose to the grindstone kind of guy. That's the energy that I get from James Cameron when I watched all the behind the scenes stuff on Avatar. And so my general opinion of James Cameron is that he's also a very you work and you get it done kind of person. He's not a real limelight kind of guy. So,
I mean, honestly, yeah, until recently, I don't think I'd ever seen like a photo of him before.
Sure.
Other directors, oh yeah, you know exactly what Spielberg looks like,
Yeah.
boom,
Spielberg,
right in your face.
Tarantino, Spike
Exactly.
Lee,
Wes Anderson. That's Wes Anderson. That is Wes Anderson. Is it how you describe Wes Anderson in person?
You wouldn't even need to know.
And then you would just know.
You would just see him.
I
don't even think you need to see any of his movies.
No.
You just see him and be like, oh, hey, it's that guy. So it's Wes Anderson.
Yep, that's him.
There he is.
Right.
There he is.
So James Cameron, for a little bit of background, was born August 16th, 1954 in Kapuskasing, Ontario, Canada. His father was an engineer, his mother was an artist and a nurse, and he was the eldest of 5.
Wow.
He spent his life he spent like his youth in Canada pretty much, and he was a big outdoors kid. He loved nature, and that kind of thing. He ended up leaving. His family relocated to California when he was 17. So right before end of high school.
Yeah, that's a crazy time to move.
That's literally like an 80s movie.
Yeah.
New kid in town.
From Canada.
That's right. Living in LA. What?
And so he attends college, but he ends up not finishing college, but he pursues engineering there. He also ends up pursuing, I think, physics or something else to that effect while he's at college. And he drops out. And he works odd jobs. He's a trucker for a while. He just sort of bounces around and does all these different jobs, but he writes in his free time and has all these sorts of ideas. And he sees Star Wars, and he decides that he needs to stop fiddle fucking around and go and make movies.
My man, it's always Star Wars, isn't it? For real, it is Star Wars or Jurassic Park or a combination of the two. Like for like everybody, I swear.
No, that's fair. It really is. It's a cornerstone.
Yeah, I mean, it's
There's no way to
that's a movie right
pull
there.
out the influence of Star Wars from pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to do it. So then once he started trying to get a script made, he made a short film. He worked several odd jobs in production. He did some visual effects for a little while himself. And then eventually, of course, he finally went and made Piranha 2, which was a huge flop, and he decided he wasn't going to make a movie that he didn't write again, and so then he went and made The Terminator. And the rest, as they say, is history. He's an environmentalist. He loves oceanography and he's a conservationist. He's been married 5 times.
Wow.
Including to Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor herself.
Oh, well, would you look at that?
I mean, would you just look at it? He also helped develop, over time, over the course of his career, he has helped develop nautical exploration equipment, underwater filming equipment, and a 3D camera, as we'll talk about later. He owns a farm and is very interested in the agribusiness and how to improve it and expand it. And he has opened up an entirely vegan school.
And he does this all in the 24 hours of the same days as we do?
He might not have the farm anymore. He might have given that up. No, he has the farm in New Zealand. He's living there now while he's been making the Avatar movies.
Copy. That's insanity.
He relocated to New Zealand while making all of the Avatar sequels in bulk.
Copy.
Man, I'd probably be pretty productive too if I had all that money.
No,
Yeah.
like literally.
And the last,
or maybe not. Maybe I wouldn't do shit.
Just have people do it for you.
The last little
Maybe,
tidbit that I
depends.
have is apparently this is a true story, Guillermo del Toro's father, if you didn't know this, was kidnapped back in the 90s.
What? No.
And his father was kidnapped. He had to pay a ransom. And apparently James Cameron gave a sizable amount of money toward the ransom of Guillermo del Toro's father back in the 90s. So that's a little bit about James Cameron for you.
Oh my God, he helped out Guillermo.
For a little bit of backstory on Avatar, it is something that he says that he's been working on his whole life. He says that it goes all the way back to when he was a kid and he made this drawing when he was like 11 or something. The first 2 years of production were largely focused on the first year of production, I should say, it was entirely 2 teams that were working on the movie, an art team and an R&D team. And the R&D team worked exclusively on all of the performance equipment for performance capture.
What does R&D stand for?
Research and development.
Oh, okay.
And so he had one team doing nothing but art to make Pandora real and figure out how all of the animals work. And he had another team that was going and developing all of the technology that then they were then going to use to make a movie. And also during this time, he had a guy by the name...
it's basically what he does is say like, here's the movie I'm going to make. Here's what it requires. The technology is not there yet. So I'm going to have people make it. Like we're going to make like the needed technology for these effects or what have you, like, and we're just going to do it live.
It all has to be cutting edge.
Yep. And he had a guy by the name of Paul Frommer go and develop the entire language of Na'vi. And so that's it. Overall, the entire production cycle, after that first year, they then spent another year pretty much just doing the performance capture acting.
Copy.
It wasn't until about a year and a half into, or it wasn't about 2.5 years in until they started doing actual physical production with sets and everything like that. It was about a 4.5 year process to make the movie.
Wow.
So Avatar was released December 18th, 2009. It had a theatrical runtime of 2 hours, 46 minutes. We watched the collector's edition runtime.
Yeah.
Which was 2 hours, 58 minutes.
Whew, yes, it was.
Yep. It had an estimated budget of $237 million. But it earned at the box office $2.7 billion upon release. So that's also how he got all of those sequels immediately. It is, of course,
that's and we talked about this before. That's the really crazy thing about Avatar's box office is not just that it's the highest, but it like the margin compared between it and second place before Endgame came out.
Yeah.
It was just huge. Like, not even close. The second one was Titanic, right?
I think the second one for a little while had been Force Awakens, but it was still
Force Awakens. Yeah,
it was still
it's such a jump. It's not just like I said, like that's the craziest part to me. It is so much more.
Yeah.
Than the others below it. Like they're not even close. I don't know what it would take to have a movie do that kind of numbers again.
Avatar 2, I guess.
Besides Avatar 2. And even then I don't know. I think Avatar 2 will make a shit ton of money, obviously. Like a lot. But I have no idea if it can do that magic trick again of almost $3 billion fucking dollars.
Well, we'll talk about that, I guess, after we talk about the first one a little bit more. It is written and directed by James Cameron. It stars Laz Alonso, Stephen Lang, Joel David Moore, Carol Christine Hilaria Pounder, also known as CCH Pounder.
Of course.
Pounder.
Dileep Rao, Giovanni Ribisi, Michelle Rodriguez, Zoe Saldana, Wes Studi, and Sam Worthington. And the plot, I really am not sure if I need to say the plot, but just in case. The plot is a paraplegic Marine dispatched to the moon Pandora on a unique mission becomes torn between following his orders and protecting the world he feels is his home. And so, Nick, since you are our guest here, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? So, first off, not only what did you think of Avatar, but did you see Avatar back in 2009?
Yeah.
What are some of your opinions on it from then to now?
Yeah, I remember seeing Avatar when it first came out. I didn't see it opening night or anything like that. It wasn't anything I was like incredibly hyped for, but then once that movie came out and I go see it, you gotta like everybody was going to go see it. So I think I saw it a couple weeks after it had been out. And I remember liking it, thinking it was very good. I think I saw it twice in theaters. And then after that, I don't think I revisited it much. I had a friend who liked it a lot more than I did. I think he was just more appreciative of like the filmmaking than I was at that point. So for years, I think it was kind of just like, you know, like it's okay. There's like the obvious issues that everybody has with it. And then it, you know, kind of became like a joke.
Yeah, it did.
Almost for a good while. Then we hit a point where we're like, oh, and now it looks, you know, this movie looks like crap now. Stuff we have now, you know, it didn't age well, blah, blah, blah. So this was my first time watching it again in a long time, and this is also my first time watching extended collector's edition, which I thought improved the movie like a ton. I really like. This is the version that I'd recommend watching for anyone. For real.
That's funny because James Cameron is a little bit of
he doesn't like it, right?
Yeah, he's a little bit of the opinion of like, it's there.
Yeah. I think it adds so much characterization to everyone, really, which is like a weaker point of, I guess, like the theatrical cut. At least to me, like, you know, I never cared much about any of the characters and like that when I watched it initially. This time I was really into it. I like Jake as a character. You at least get to know him better through the opening scenes on Earth to start out with. I don't know. I think the extended version just gives so much better context.
Yeah.
And it makes everything feel fuller, and it feels more like to me at least, it feels more like giant, you know, epic story and movie that it's meant to be. And I also think that I don't know why I thought that it looked bad a few years ago or whatever. Or maybe this version that I watched just looked really good. I thought it looked great. And nowadays I'm obviously much more appreciative, much more like in awe of just the technical everything of this movie. Like literally like every single frame is like, you can stop it and be like, there's so much, it's so dense. You know, like there's so much happening. It's like an amazing achievement period in the fact that it is a good, like coherent movie story at the same time is a plus, even though, again, obviously it gets into like, you know, it's not a story that we're not already familiar with. But it has some original parts that I really like. I really like Sigourney Weaver's character a lot more this time around. I think the extended edition gives more context to her as well, and the time on Pandora before Jake gets there, like how they've been there for years on Pandora already, right? You know, we get more context with like the school that they built, how, you know, relations kind of fell apart. Yeah. Yes, I still think the third act goes just into maybe too overindulgent, like more interesting aspects in favor of actions, cool, that it becomes for like the last half hour. Yes. Yeah, I liked it a lot more this time around. It obviously has its issues and it's like in its problematic areas as well. I'm not the best authority, I think, to kind of we can get into it later if you want, maybe, but yeah, like the more problematic issues with it being written by James Cameron, I guess. Yeah. What do you guys think of Avatar upon watching the nearly 3-hour version?
Dear, what did you think? Same question. What was sort of your background coming into it with Avatar? What did you think upon rewatching it all this time later?
Okay, so I've seen Avatar a lot. It was one of those ones where like it was Thompson approved, so we watched that.
Your brother loves this movie.
Oh yeah, my brother watches this movie almost every day, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever he's like, I'm home and I need to throw on something, he just throws on Avatar.
There was
That's like his go-to.
Yeah, it's this movie.
So he's pumped up all the sequels, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he'll be right there in the theater. Let's go.
There was one time that we were visiting, and he was like, "All right, I'm off to bed. I'm gonna put on Avatar and head to sleep." And like that was just like how he planned to spend the rest of his night.
Oh, that's fun. He's one of the diehard fans then.
Yeah, he's with it, man. He's a true believer.
No, for sure. So like,
is he depressed? Is he also depressed because it's not real? He has the Pandora syndrome or whatever.
Maybe that's what he wants. You know, he's like, gosh, if only I could be a blue cat person too.
By Avatar 3, that's what it'll be. That'll be the experience in the theater at that point.
It'll just be like those IMAX theaters, at like the Discovery Place Museum. Like they like move around and you're like, oh, you know, fully immersed in it.
Yeah, and if you look down, you're a Navi also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's better than Disney. It's all I'm hearing. But no, like I really enjoyed the movie, and I remember really enjoying the movie a lot, but I just haven't seen it in an eternity. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw this movie. It's probably been over 10 years. Like fully.
Yeah.
From beginning to end.
Sure.
Watched this movie. And like I really liked it. I've never seen this extended cut before, and gosh golly gee willikers, could I not tell what had changed in this movie. It's been so damn long since I watched it. I was like, wow, I thought that I would really be a lot more cold on this movie, like kind of how I feel about like Independence Day. Like I know Independence Day. You can pop in any part of Independence Day. I know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, because like, it's Independence Day.
Exactly. It's classic.
Perfect movie.
But no, like I really enjoyed this a lot. It was a fun rewatch. I remembered why I enjoyed watching it all those years ago. I think that it still holds up. I mean, there are some parts that obviously look a little bit wibbly with the CG like bleed over, but like for the most part it's like an entirely CG affair when it's like when they're like on the planet, and I think that's the stuff that like always takes your breath away.
Did you guys have like weird, you have a nicer TV than me, but like for me sometimes like the frame rate, like it could not handle it. If something was like, you know, like it's weird, he does like the kind of like almost slow motion sometimes, or like I said, maybe that's just the frame rate fucking up on my end, you know, when one of like the horse things jumps over a tree, like jumps over a log or something, it'd be like I can't process it.
No, I
poor
honestly,
screen. Why does he steal so many Jurassic Park sound effects?
That is a very good question.
The horse things are just the velociraptors from Jurassic Park, straight up. There's another one too that was like another Jurassic Park dinosaur. It's probably like the T-Rex or some shit.
Yeah, I think it's what's odd about it is that I think that they use like a T-Rex or some sort of other large predator roar or something like that with one of the big like hammerhead dinosaurs or something like that.
Yeah. Like the rhino hammerhead thing. Yes.
Yeah, I think that it's some sort of odd like mismatch of where you expect the other sound effect to go. But there are like 2 or 3 that are definitely, if you know your Jurassic Park sound effects,
they're there.
Like that's...
Well, I suppose did ILM? I mean, ILM, I imagine, did a lot of the work on the Jurassic Park films.
Probably.
And so
yes,
ILM
not
was
probably.
involved.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. ILM was also involved with this, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's just a part of their asset library. Yeah.
It's like we said, it's exactly recycle again.
Just a little bit here.
What kind of noise should this animal alien make? What does it look like? I don't know, man. Let's Did All
Perfect.
right, that's it.
Does that look right? What if I touch this knob like this? Huh? Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect now. Okay. We're done here.
It sounds just different enough.
Yep.
It's like still like an analog thing from the 90s for the Jurassic Park sound effect thing that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. They had to get the dust off of it like in Indiana Jones, where it's just like a thick layer.
What's funny is one thing that I don't think this movie has is a Wilhelm scream.
That's all it's missing.
What the hell is a Wilhelm scream?
That's the classic like oh scream that you hear people do in movies.
It's a very
someone?
it's a very distinct yell. Really, if you just watch the Star Wars movies, like there's one in like every Star Wars movie, and then you can. And then once you recognize it there, then you start hearing it in other movies. And
there's one in every Star Wars movie. There's pretty much one in... I think there's one in almost all of the Indiana Jones movies.
That sounds right.
There's one in Captain America: The First Avenger, because that's made by Joe Johnston, who grew up under Lucas and Spielberg. So
it's in their contracts.
Yeah, but you know, I Avatar is one that I saw, I think twice, maybe 3 times in theaters. I think I did see it opening night because we just went to movies opening night. You know, that was just how we did it. And I think that we went to it opening night. I don't remember being particularly amped about it in any particular way. Like, I remember being excited, but not really like, oh God, you know, this is gonna...
Oh no, I wanted to see this movie a lot.
Oh, you did. You were really pumped about this one.
No, yeah, for sure. It looked cool. I was really interested in the character work and like the interesting aesthetic of it. The visuals, I was bought by the visuals in the trailer that we saw many moons ago.
Yeah.
I don't think I cared that much. I'm sure I knew of its existence. Maybe I just didn't see enough marketing from it, or I just was like, well, whatever about it.
But it also had Zoe Saldana in it, and like anytime you get like practical like copy paste representation in anything, it really helps with the whole like this could be me kind of thing.
Yeah,
feeling.
Someone to latch on to.
Exactly. You know, it's like this is
the racially ambiguous.
That's right. This tribe of they're definitely not Africans.
And it's actually funny that you mentioned that. The tribes are definitely very much they very much openly talk about when you watch some of the special features that like they beg, borrow, and steal just about every concept from just about any culture that you could think of in the world in some way, you know, in some capacity for this movie. So, you know, some sort of particular you know, way of doing beadwork, you know, from some sort of tribal culture or some sort of drum or certain musical sound. They really went and patched a lot of that all together. And the core identity of it was definitely, at least for the language, was apparently from James Cameron's passing familiarity with Pacific Island dialects.
Why? Why does he have that in his knowledge base?
Because he does a lot of stuff out at sea.
Yeah, he does all the oceanography stuff out in the Pacific.
Absolutely crazy person, I swear.
And he travels the world a lot.
He's going to be the next like Discovery Channel show. It's going to be with James Cameron discovers Iceland or something, and it's going to be his cooking show for some reason.
Ha.
I'd probably watch James Cameron cook, sure.
I hadn't watched it in a while. I think the last time that I watched it might have been in college. And
yeah, did we watch it together?
I think we did.
At some point? I feel like we did.
And for some reason it didn't hit the spot back then. I don't know what it was. but and it's not that I disliked it after the last time that I watched it, but it did leave me, for whatever reason, a little bit colder
Sure.
then than it did now. Upon rewatching it now, I felt much warmer to the movie overall.
It's also like a much bleaker, like Hollywood like environment.
Yeah,
like
that's
film,
fair.
Much bleaker film landscape as far as like big, major studio productions go.
No,
So rewatching Avatar now is like, man, remember when they made movies like this?
Look at how well, and also going back and watching the post-production, you also just really got the sense of like how dramatically different the post-production process on these movies now is from back when James Cameron could go and make a fucking James. And honestly, at this point, he's one of the few people that can still do it like this. I mean, no one else would have waited up this long on the Avatar sequels. No one else could have gotten this much lead time.
Yeah, like it wouldn't be allowed, you know.
No.
That, like anybody else, that they'd be like, if you're gonna take that long, we're just gonna find someone else to do it. You know, like
I really don't think that they would even give it to Chris Nolan at this point. Like, James Cameron is the only person on the planet, but it's because Titanic was the first movie to really blow up in such a prodigious way like that. And everyone after Titanic was like, yeah, absolutely. Actually, he wanted to do Avatar right after Titanic. But it just ended up not working and not coming together at that time.
Wonder who he would have cast.
That's a good question. But I really think that it does have the problematic issue of like the sort of, you know, white savior narratives stuff surrounding Jake Sully, you know, which has been talked about by much smarter people than I. To greater detail, I'm sure also. But I think, setting that aside, I think that it is a very well done movie. Like, it is an epic movie in every sense of the word.
There are some moments that are like the word is not cheap, I guess. I don't know. It looks like a sci-fi stuff. Like some scenes that are set, you know, like on the base. Yeah. That are like purely live action for the most part.
I think that's a mixture of two things. One is maybe
it's only like a couple like shots, you know, but you're just like, you know, because everything else is so like hyper, you know, like HD, whatever you want to call it, you know, like digital, you know, bliss in perfection. And then you go and you see like a scene where, you know, like he is waking up out of the pod, or by what's his name, Papa Dragon.
Yeah, Stephen.
And I'm like, that looks like a set, you know, like that looks like a prop, and like that looks like, you know, this looks very fake comparatively. Like, funny enough, even though that's like the practical stuff, you know, that's funny because you know, it's kind of like the reverse in this movie, where like all the digital stuff, you're like, that looks amazing, and then you get to like some of like the pure like practical stuff, and you're like, and that like doesn't look as good. Whereas most of the time it's like the opposite. It's like, we want more practical, so it looks better, looks more real.
I think some of it is a little bit of a mix of like the camera that they were using, because they were using this very particular camera that they developed for the production, and they shot the entire thing in 3D. And so I think maybe some of it comes from that. I think also some of it comes from the fact that a lot of those sets were only partial constructions with a lot of digital finishing.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if that also didn't really help it either.
I like the
and do little digital touch-ups here and there.
I like the amount of characters that yell, you know, like, yeah, get some. You know, like there's so many. There's like several minor characters in Avatar that are just like have bloodlust.
No, that's
like. And are stupid, like have like the dumb kind of, yeah, like it's exactly like, get some,
Well, he's really leaning into like a very specific type of person.
Yeah, he's not being very subtle.
No, not at all. It's very that like post 9/11 like army dude feeling. Like we're gonna go and kick some ass. You know,
Yeah.
hyper aggression.
Jarhead kind of stuff, yeah.
We're gonna go massacre. We're gonna go massacre and destroy nature.
And it's gonna be fine because I'm in the
I feel
army.
badass doing it. I felt badass doing it.
It's not gay.
But no, I think that it's a pretty awesome movie for the most part overall. Like I still don't think that it's perfect. It still isn't, I think, one of like my all-time favorites, but I think that this watch through recently definitely made me more interested in watching it again. I think that it does really land its emotional journey. I think Zoe Saldana steals the movie away from Sam Worthington.
Oh, the entire time. This
Pretty
is her
effortless.
fucking movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She's so good in this.
Yeah.
She's very good in this. I really like, I can't remember his name, but the actor who plays Sute.
Laz Alonso.
Which is like kind of like once again like an archetypal character in this kind of story that we've seen before. But you know, it really is when like Zoe Saldana, he's really able to emote through all of the digital like effects and everything. With, you know, comparative without having as many lines. A lot of what he has to do is just kind of show like the hurt pride, the hurt like romantic side of it, kind of deal. That's a sad character. Shouldn't have killed him. Lame. It adds to like I said, like unfortunately like an archetypal character. You know, like, and of course he's dead. Of course, get rid of that guy.
Also that, yeah, you know. And
he can't be around the white man's here. Yes.
No,
I've taken away from what I wanted to say, which is I watching it this time around, I was really drawn to his performance.
Yeah.
Zoe Saldana, I've just like, even when I was like, well, this movie, what a joke, Zoe Saldana's performance in this movie is still forever like that's good stuff.
Absolutely incredible.
Killing
one of the more
it.
Overlooked, especially back then, elements of the film, I think, was her performance. She definitely deserved, I think, awards attention for this performance. She was...
Oh, yeah, for sure. This movie won an Oscar. She should have won one, too.
I like Sam Worthington more in this than I have initially. And like I said, I think that's just because you get to know his character more in the extended version. Really, like, it's when like a dialogue scene is longer, or like you know, like kind of has a length to it, is when you're like, oh, that's a deleted scene, or that's an added in, you know, it's an added in scene.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
that's why I didn't know.
He's still not. I feel like it could have, like, no disrespect to Sam Worthington. I guess is disrespectful. Like, I don't know. Yeah, he could have been a more.
He didn't own the part the same way that she did.
I guess. I don't know what you do, honestly. Like, the character makes sense to me on paper. I don't know. Fucking John Smith, motherfucker.
And maybe that's it. Maybe it's a character that you just ultimately don't connect with, no matter, like...
And he doesn't even get to sing.
No. So, Nick, if you had to give Avatar a score out of 5, what would you give Avatar?
Man, I gave it 4 this time around. Really.
Okay.
I was really about it, man. I dug it, like I said. It's got its problems. 1 star away from that. Normally, those would be more severe. I think its strengths make up for a lot of its weaknesses in this watch, apparently.
No,
Stephen Lang. Stephen Lang is fucking wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's hilarious. I'd say diplomacy has failed.
Dear, what would you give Avatar out of 5?
I think I'm gonna go with a 4.5. I really enjoyed this movie, and I guess it's also like a very nostalgically driven vote as well for me. Like this movie just takes me way back. You know, I don't even know when this movie came out.
2009.
Yeah, yeah, we were like right in that like youth pocket. You know,
That
high
would have
school.
been junior year.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Prime of our lives. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, I really enjoy this movie. I think that there's some phenomenal performances in this. I think that everybody is doing a great job, and like I can take that and kind of glide me through the parts that don't look so great anymore. You know, like we watched it on our 4K TV. Like it looked bad. I'm not even gonna joke. But there are parts where like the layers they just weren't there anymore. You know that they weren't glued together anymore. It was you could see them.
They weren't connected.
Not a bit. But like I still I still absolutely love this movie. I think that Sam Worthington is pretty just like there.
No, that's fair.
You know, like he's the dude. And like he's doing a good job, but he's just some dude. It could have been anybody. We all paid money to see Zoe, and that's my vote.
Here's defensive Sam Worthington. Also, he is able to like own the needed like physicality of like again like the digital like the motion capture performance.
No,
and he is able to emote and everything.
I completely agree.
And yeah, it's like I don't know if it's the material or what, or if he's just not connected in the way that this thing was filmed. That's hard for an actor. That's hard.
Yeah.
No.
Who knows? But
I mean, yeah.
Obviously he is the weak link here, though. Yes.
I mean, like in the hierarchy of like who's in this movie, I straight up went, I don't know who this person is, like when I first watched this movie, and I have yet to know anything about like who he is as a person, I guess, like after this movie as well. Like this is the movie that I have for him. This is it.
He's a very rich person after this movie.
Yeah,
and I guess then he never had to work again.
What we can determine.
But yeah,
we'll watch some other Sam Worthington sometime.
Okay, cool, because he's definitely like an actor that my brain just has no recollection of. That's a sad sentence. But yeah, no, I'm gonna go 4.5. I think this movie kicks ass. And has some just really good standard old storytelling, even though it's the same exact plot as FernGully and Pocahontas and others.
No, for sure. I'm going to go with a 4 as well. There are just those things about it that I don't think quite get it there. But I do think that its strengths definitely overcome pretty much all of its weaknesses, and I think that it's a great ride overall. And I really enjoyed going back and rewatching it again, and I definitely want to watch this one more often than I currently have, which is like, once every 6 years or some shit.
That sounds right.
They're re-releasing it in September.
Yeah. I saw. We'll get to that in just a second. And as far as FernGully moment, I think it is interesting also that it does get so compared to FernGully, because there are two things that are interesting. One is that when they showed some test footage to people, apparently some of the producers of the film were worried that they were showing too much of the, quote, FernGully stuff. But on top of that, I think it's also interesting that people compare it to FernGully a lot, because the creator of FernGully specifically said that he wanted to highlight the reality of nature and how wonderful and magic real nature is, and how this is so exaggerated, even though James Cameron has given it all of these like actual biological reasons and needs and what have you. You know, it is an entirely fictitious, ultra magical thing. And so I think it's kind of interesting that the movie that everyone is like, you're copying FernGully, this is just the FernGully moment, is also this movie that's like, you know, hyper grounded in its...
No, I get that. I mean, they are like hunting for
But it's the
unobtainium.
yeah, and it's
like it's funny.
No, and it's the similar plot of, you know, the cutting down of the trees and deforestation and those sorts of themes, you know, throughout both of them.
Well,
they're also just goddamn trees.
That's right.
Well, I mean, I guess that's also why I said like Pocahontas as well. It's like a you know, somebody coming in to an area that is pure and fucking it up.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, I might actually have us just skip doing what we're watching and jump into some media news. There were a few things that I just sort of wanted to throw out and not chat about too much, because there's been one thing that I've been sitting on to tell Lauren about, because I can't wait to see what her face is going to be like when I tell her. So just for some quick little bits of news. One, Justin Lin departed Fast and Furious 10. The director of some of the best in the franchise. 5, I think 7. And they had already started production and he left.
It sounded like that he died. He had departed.
No, he just left it.
Okay, cool. Glad you're still with us.
There are a lot of people who think that he got dead sick and tired of Vin Diesel.
That's a presence.
There are some people who speculate that Vin Diesel might go on to direct the film.
Oh, sweet God!
I really hope so.
That's the best outcome. If Vin Diesel directs Fast and Furious, and we return to the good timeline. You understand?
That's right.
We have to break through.
We've been in the bad of us. but if we go to the theater to watch Vin Diesel's
Fast and Furious movie, dear God.
If we use an act of lunacy so strong, we'll break through back to the good timeline.
We'll come back.
All of this news is all, by the way, coming around CinemaCon, which is a big insider event that's currently happening right now, where everyone is doing all of their, you know, sort of dog and pony show sort of debuts of things.
Dog and pony show, my goodness.
And so they also announced during CinemaCon that The Batman is officially getting a sequel.
So soon, you say?
Yeah.
Man, we used to have to wait for shit.
Well,
what a surprise.
Some people were commenting on the fact that it didn't have one like immediately announced yet. Honestly, I just think that they were waiting for something like this.
I wonder if the comic book movie that made a lot of money, if they'll do another one of them.
Who knows?
Probably not.
We do have a little bit of Avatar news. The big news is that it has a title, but it also has a release date. So the new title, it's no longer Avatar 2, it is now Avatar: The Way of Water.
Oh, wow. Are we going to like a different clan, or are we just hanging out with Jake Sully?
It is supposed to have pretty much the entire cast returning.
It's set like over a decade later, so like kind of like real time-ish. So it's they're older and they have kids.
Interesting.
And it's coming out December 16th.
Copy.
So the trailer's supposed to come out this year. We've now got ourselves a little title for it. The other big announcement that just came out this week, and this is the one that I've been waiting on so long to tell you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Via a press announcement that was set out on social media by the director, John M. Chu, they've announced that they're making a change to the movie Wicked.
Oh, sweet God. Okay.
They've decided that one movie isn't enough to tell the whole story of Wicked, and that they're going to split it into 2 movies. And we're going to be getting part 1 and part 2 of Wicked.
No! Oh my God. Think about your life, Pippin. Jesus Christ, we don't need to. We don't. Yeah, we don't need to.
For reference, it's a 2-hour, 45-minute show, approximately.
Oh God. Oh God. They're just giving Ariana time to riff.
Wicked Part 1, Wicked Part 2.
1 year apart.
This really
It'll
is
be how wicked when nobody sees the second part, when they go, oh God, not this again. I know how it is, yada yada.
This really is another one that's like, this took like so long to happen. And the casting is weird.
Yeah. No, it took a long time. You know, I know that there is a very dedicated Wicked fan base, but like,
This is not what I wanted. This is not what I signed up when I heard Wicked movie, and I was like, okay, maybe. And then they threw this one at me, and I was like, nah, I'm fine.
Well, I thought they're supposed to be like teenagers.
They're supposed to be like college
or like
students,
18. Yeah.
Yeah. They're supposed to be. It's like they're 18 until they're, I guess, like probably in their 40s, I would say. But they always go for like, they have one person who looks like in their 30s to 40s, and then they've got another who looks like she's like 19, and it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, like permanently. Yeah, so like it's gonna be weird at the start for Elphaba, and then it's gonna be weird closer to the end.
I wonder if they're gonna do some weird de-aging crap to them, and like some age play with some digital stuff to make them look the appropriate age, or they could have just done better casting, but that's beside the point. They wanted to do it the hard way.
What they should do is, have you guys seen I, Tonya?
Yeah.
I have not, but...
Well, in I, Tonya, they have Sebastian Stan and Margot Robbie just like play like their teenage selves and do like a horribly unconvincing job, and like it just looks like they dress them up as like a teenager as best they could. They don't do like any sort of
and they just sort of except like with that.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
and absolutely wonderful.
It's pretty funny, so that's what they should do.
I think that's right. Opinion. I think that's all correct.
But no, I've been waiting so long to tell you that.
Jesus Christ. I knew it had something to do with Wicked because of your fucking post on Twitter that was all of the Wicked sequels.
The theoretical Wicked sequels.
Well, it's just the first one will end on defying gravity like Act 1, and then there you go.
Exactly. Because there's also a nice story break as well, because they go from being college students to being like adults.
True, that's the time jump.
Exactly, but Jesus Christ, guys, we didn't need it like this.
But that's all that I pretty much have for the show, honestly. Nick, do you have anything that you want to share or let the listeners know at all?
I didn't like Ambulance much at all. I thought the Northman was mid. Dual Supremacy. Duel was a good movie.
Okay, we'll have to go and give that one a look. We haven't we rewatched some stuff. I guess we'll do a little bit of a what we're watching, just a micro one. The only thing that we've watched recently, movie-wise, was Nobody.
We watched Nobody, and we watched The Batman.
Yeah, we rewatched The Batman for date night.
But
okay.
other than that,
both of which are great films.
Yeah.
Had you seen
together?
Had you already seen Nobody?
Yeah.
Yeah, we own it. We watched it.
Oh, you just rewatched it.
Yeah, that's actually one of the episodes that you appeared on. That's the third episode that you appeared on, was Mortal Kombat Nobody.
Wow, what a combo.
And so that's pretty much all that we've been watching. Thank you for coming on. As always, you can follow Nick on social media, Knotfest, Discussing Film, his personal website. I'll have links to that all down below. Dear, is there anything else that you would like to tell the listeners before we go?
This is our last episode
of April, yeah.
Of April.
So next month we're going to be doing Asian American cinema for Asian American Pacific Islander month. And so if you haven't already, sign up for our newsletter, because we're going to be posting more about that when we send out our newsletter sometime early next week, probably Monday or Tuesday. So yeah, thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome. I just thought about it.
Yeah, and if you haven't, also go and check out all of our April holiday episodes in general. Definitely be sure to also follow Madelaine on her socials and everything. I'll have that all posted below. You can follow us, of course, also at the Film Buds Podcast on Instagram and at Film Buds on Twitter. You can also go and follow us on Patreon and donate to the show. If you have any questions, you can email us at the filmbudspodcast@gmail.com. Also, check out some of our written reviews on the website that are only available on the website. And that's about all that we have for y'all. Thanks, you guys, as always, for listening, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.